Rob McEwen, Chief Owner and Chairman of McEwen Mining, joins us today to talk about the future of gold and mining and how the elections will impact the metals and the economy. Rob, it's a pleasure to speak with you today. There's no better person to talk about the industry than an industry insider like yourself. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the compliment, David. Happy to.
Now, the election is still ongoing. We don't have a definitive result as we speak on Friday. But, it seems to me like every time that Joe Biden pulls ahead in the odds, in the probabilities, we see gold rally as a result. Can you explain why gold seems to prefer a Democrat president?
They're viewed as big spenders, bigger than the Republicans. So they have a greater propensity to lean towards social fundings.
Yes.
And the debt loads right now are pretty frightening in the US and many other countries around the world as a result of what's happening to deal with COVID. But there's a threshold when the GDP gets up to 130%, debt gets to 130% of GDP, there's a very real likelihood of a default. And I saw an article that was done by Grant Williams on just that, and it had about a 98% probability of a country defaulting on its debt if it gets up to 130% of GDP.
Even a country like the United States, Rob, I mean, every finance textbook would have to be rewritten if the United States defaults.
Well, I mean, it is the reserve currency of the world, so maybe it has a little more room to maneuver in. But you just look at the tremendous expansion in debt and the monetary printing that's going on. It's like the central banks are on steroids printing, stimulating the economy. And I saw one number that between mid-March and mid-July, the 4-month period this year, that the money, financial resources applied to deal with COVID in the United States were 20 times what they used in the 18-month period at 2008, 2009 to deal with the global financial crisis. I mean, that's massive. And you're looking at the world with this debt, with the monetary expansion, with low interest rates. It's fueled an incredible inflation in stock and real estate values. And you just start looking at that and saying, well, does it come to an end? If you look back the last 65 years, interest rates haven't averaged 0%. It's far higher than that. So zero interest rates are hard to imagine, and there are insurance companies and pension plans that aren't going to survive and pay out to their holders with zero interest rates. They can't. Their returns are premised on 5-6%.
Yeah. Why does gold do well during low interest rate environments? Because if investors are searching for yield, they could find that with equities as well, right?
True. I think it's the opportunity cost that, you put it in gold, and some people would say, Warren Buffett would say it doesn't pay a dividend, but it's not, you can't get a dividend right now. Well, you can get a dividend, but you put your money in the bank, it's not going to give you what you're hoping it would do.
So let's go back to the election now. What specific, are you looking out for any policy changes that are going to move gold prices either way, up or down? Any specific, any monumental changes that are going to happen, you think?
I think the election's going to be in the news for quite a while. There'll be a lot of lawyers making money. One asserting the votes are good, and another asserting they aren't. No, I just think we're on a course that we've seen before in history where debt loads and monetary expansion debase the currencies. I have some graphs in the presentation. I have Canada. It's almost exponential running up the slope. But you're looking at the US, Euro, Japan, Australia, UK. They all have these massive curves. And I'd say the steepest appears to be, of the six I showed, our own, Canada. And that's measuring from 1960. I mean, it is approaching an exponential slope.
Right. I mean, what are the implications of that? Are we in danger of, some sort of bubble collapsing, Rob?
Possibly, yes. I mean, we haven't had Canadians standing on their chairs and on their rooftops screaming at Ottawa and saying, "What have you done to our currency? You've destroyed it, and you've taken away 30+% of my wealth as a result of that." I know it's getting away from gold and it's political, but I just think
All related, yeah. Well, it's a good point because I mean, I grew up in Vancouver, right? Housing prices in Vancouver have been steadily increasing. They've been calling a bubble in that city for more than a decade. Toronto as well, but it's still not. We still haven't seen a pop to that bubble, right? So what I'm saying is that maybe this is just a new norm now, Rob.
could be, and I mean, there's a large market for Vancouver real estate.
Well, tying this back to gold and the precious metals now, what do you think that some analysts think that we're going to return to a gold standard because you talked about currency debasement and you talked about how we might have a default. Well, one of the solutions that analysts have proposed is a return to the gold standard. Do you see that happening?
Could be a quasi gold standard. I mean, it's been talked about in the Middle East. And certainly Russia and China have been buying gold. Their central banks have been buying. I often viewed that as their way of showing they have a stronger currency, having the backing of gold. I don't know if anyone will get to convertible into gold, their currency again, but that would be a big move. and it would be a big price increase for gold.
Well, do you have a long-term outlook on gold? Do you think it's going to go up? Do you think it's going to stay flat? Do you think it's going to go down?
I guess I've been a perma bull on gold for quite a while. I think it's going much higher. I know in 2000, I thought it was going to, or 2011, I thought it was going to hit 2000. Been saying that for a number of years, and then it got to 1920 and then rolled over on us. No, I think it's going to go through. It has gone through 2000 this year. I don't think $5,000 that far out. And if you get, I look at the influence of the social media and how much it's propelled some of the tech stocks. And I'm going to suggest that when people start looking at gold and it's become a more common topic on the social medias, that you're going to see gold start to fly. You've already seen in Google searches, there's been a spiking in searches for gold.
Well, what about silver now, Rob? This year we've seen silver actually in percentage terms outperform gold, but it hasn't reached all-time highs like it has, like gold has. Do you think that there's something holding silver back? What about the supply side of silver?
There's a range. There's a very wide range that silver and gold, that ratio, has traded in. I mean, we got up over 100 to 1, 100 ounces, over 100 ounces of silver buying an ounce of gold, and we're somewhere around 70 right now. Since 1960. There's been more time above 50 than below 50.
Well, do you think we're like 80 right now? We're near 80. Do you think this is way overvalued right now? Well, not overvalued, but do you think the ratio is should be this high? Or do you think the fair gold silver ratio should be lower?
Silver usually runs further than gold when gold's running in a good gold bull market. So I think that there's a lot to come still.
Fair enough. Let's talk about mining finally. Let's give an update on McEwen Mining, your operations. Copper is doing also very well. Let's talk about your operations.
Well, we're rebuilding. We had a horrific last year and the first half of this year. We've been able to refinance our debt, push it out a couple of years, take some liquidity issues off the balance sheet. Our operations, we shut down for part of this Q2 because of COVID on all of our operations, and some of ours are still operating below capacity. So that was a hit to our revenues, but I thought it was the right thing to do to protect our employees, families, and their communities. Exploration is ongoing. We're getting good results out of Timmins. And we're going to see in this quarter a lot of studies coming out on a new production in Mexico, an assembly of production in Timmins, proposal there, and building at Gold Bar in Nevada.
It doesn't hit the headlines often, Rob, but we are seeing a slow trend towards technological innovation in the mining space. So more companies are using artificial intelligence to gather data. There's some talk of potentially even off-world mining. What do you think of all this trend?
I think it's great. You also have the tech companies looking at mining and saying, like they said to a lot of other industries, why are you doing it that way? So, the off-world mining is interesting. Rather than drilling, they use saws, and they cut the rock and then they crush it, and they use all sorts of robots to swarm and do the job that we build big physical plants to do. The artificial intelligence, certainly some of the big companies have been very forward in their technology. Rio Tinto, and BHP, and Barrick was fairly large for a while there. The industry is going to change. It's been slow, but I think it's going to really benefit from that. I also think, though, that you're going to see an increased push to automation. And that'll be driven by two factors. One, trying to prevent the interruptions that COVID and future diseases might cause. And two, a demographic shift. There's a large portion of the mining population that's retiring in the next 10 years. So there is going to be quite a shortage looming. So they'll be replacing that need for people that aren't there, because a lot of people go through school, but they don't choose mining as the course they want to take. So you have a lot of people retiring and few people coming in and still needing bodies to move. So I think you'll see more robots showing up in the mining industry.
So Rob, would you ever consider partnering with some of these tech companies to spearhead the technological revolution in mining? Could we ever see McEwen Mining on the moon or on an asteroid, for example?
Well, it'd be fun, wouldn't it? That'd be fun. I wouldn't have any hesitation to look at that.
Well, I hope that happens, and that'll be an interesting development to follow. Thank you very much, Rob, for coming on the show today. Appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you very much, David. All the best. Have a good weekend.
And thank you for watching Kitco News. We'll have more for you. Stay tuned.